to try a different kind of film study, something I've never done before. Chris Moody gave me the idea, and it was a perfect time considering what happened last week against the Panthers. Now, I opened up with Lauryn Hill's Everything is Everything. Big fan of hers. I even used her song for Suit Hustle. And I do believe everything is everything. And what I mean by that is information, whether it's football or whatever, I view it as a giant spider web. Whatever that piece of information you're trying to evaluate, it's like the center of a web, and all those strands running to it or across it is all different information that comes together to create the center of the web, and that is football. Football is the most amazing sport that man has ever created because there's so much that goes into it, and everything is everything. Football starts in the minds of men. They want to do something, they believe in something, they want to project something, and it goes through all these filters down to the play itself and each individual technique of all the players as they go through the play. There's a million things that go into the success or failure of a play on every down. And so what I want to show here is the run game and the value of it, and how everything is everything, and what true commitment to the run game is, and how to accentuate it in the modern NFL cycle by showing the Dolphins' run game and showing the Panthers' run game. And you're going to see something very, very, very astounding. Commitment to the run game is not always fully understood. What does it mean? I said in 21, because I wasn't covering in 20, Shane Gailey was a perfect representation of understanding commitment to the run game. We had no talent. We weren't really successful at the run, but we were the 16th most attempts, and how that germinates and played out towards the success of that season. And I showed some graphics that I'll show here, but then I'm going to back it up with the film so you can understand the truth about football. It's not my truth. There's things I say here that I believe are true, but this is foundational principles. And the commitment to the run game, how to express that commitment, was really no clearer than last week. And I think after this, you'll understand a lot more than maybe you did going into it about this commitment in the run game, how to accentuate the run game through this NFL cycle, and how if the Dolphins had this commitment, you would have seen more success, not ultimate, because then you have to factor in the talent. But yes, our offensive line's not good. The tight ends aren't good. We've got good backs. McDaniel does not have that commitment or understanding of the run game because of the intestinal fortitude and the patience it takes. So let's take a look at this graphic. And I showed it. I'll go on a quick. Look at the very bottom, 2025. 9 at the top. This was a couple of weeks ago. It might have changed a little bit, but not much. Top 10 teams with rush attempts. 9 were having winning seasons. 1 wasn't. Bottom 10 rush attempts in the blue square. It was 8. Now it's 6. But I expect it to go up again. Now, I want to look at our rush chart between Achane and then against Dowdle. And you're going to see something very, very, very interesting. And the film will back it up. And it's important to understand, we get into all this stuff. It's the quarterback's fault. Maybe it's this player's fault or the offensive, whatever. But there are macro ideas, big ideas that if they're not utilized or utilize them properly, it's going to hinder you. So take a look here at this graphic, and you're going to see on the left Achane's chart. And you can see how many plays went left, how many plays went wide. You see there was 1 successful run inside. That was our most successful play of the day. And look at the LOS, the blue line, how many of those went so far. That's why we had run efficiency, the highest in the league, meant everything was going outside. But then if you look at Dowdle, look at all those runs inside. He attacked every part of the field. There's a lot of green there, some inside, some outside. But look at all those attempts in the interior and notice the carry difference, 10 to 23. The total team attempts were 14 to 34. And what do those attempts really bring? You could say, well, he's running the football and it's not successful, and you had to abandon it. But we'll go back, look at that graphic again. Look how many rush attempts weren't really that successful with Dowdle. You might not remember, but there were a lot of negative plays, a lot of short plays, 1 or 2 yards, but then they started breaking. Remember, every single run play challenges a defense. It challenges them to fit their gaps, and the more you do it, the greater the challenge is for them to fit the gaps. And we failed at fitting our gaps because there was such a huge amount of runs that the probability increased that a undisciplined team would miss tackles, not be able to hold up, but then miss their run gaps. But on top of that, there's a great video from Michael Irvin that came out today, and somebody had said Deion Sanders couldn't cover today. And there was slow receivers back then, and he just blew it up, telling the difference between football back then, the brutality, even with the receivers compared to now, it's so much easier. So the football game today kind of has a tendency to pull some of that understanding of how violent this game is. But every time you run the football, especially inside, you're testing the mental abilities of the players, but then you're beating on the bodies. And when a guy gets tired defenses give up plays. So I want to get into the film here to show you our rush attack, and with the understanding that these outside runs have a tendency to have more negative plays because you're behind the line of scrimmage more. They don't test the physicality, and if you attack the same spot, it kind of doesn't really test the mental acumen, especially when you like to throw, you run outside, you throw outside, you're basically setting up the defense to have the initiative. Whereas Carolina was very physical. They didn't stop in their commitment and ultimately started breaking things open because the defense just wore down mentally and physically. And you'll see this so clearly. That's the commitment to the run game that's critical to things I've been talking about. The pass balance cycle, the attacking of the A and B gaps. So I won't go on too much more. Let's look at the film. All right, these are 3 most successful runs. You see inside, that's not bad, 2 or 3. You want more, but it's part of the process. Pick up about 3. Here's the best run of the day. Look at this. Pick up about 5 on the interior. And then we come back and we get this one here. You get the motion and you get Gordon stop dead. And that kind of ended our attacks on the interior. So convinced this day might fall. And then we went to this. And you can see, look how long he's behind the line of scrimmage. You get 2 yards, but you're not doing much with it as far as the physicality. That's a nice little run there. But again, we keep going outside, and you see him slowly get constricted, slowly ending the process to run the football because you're not getting anything because you're going where they expect, and this defense isn't getting tired. And you can see that because we ran outside, look at here, this defense is totally set up for the exterior. They know where we're going to attack. Deception instead of what is true. And they've ambushed it. Look at this. This is brutal. And so it all works together that you're attacking a single spot. They know where you're going, and they can start ambushing zones. That never is conducive for an offense. It's very conducive for a defense. Our seeds will grow. Our seeds will grow. All we need is dedication. See right here, dead stop, maybe 2, 3. This one's a complete dead stop, just as bad as Ollie's. Another run inside, goes nowhere, 1 maybe. But over time, you get some of these.
We'll touch that tree, slow and not at all.
Again, the inside, picking his way through, picking up 4, testing the heart of the defense, right there. Another 7, picking his way through, 3 of 4. And notice, too, when you attack the interior, look at the look that we always see. We always see this. Got linebackers off the ball, 2 interior D tackles stranded, and we're never able to do this. And this starts forcing teams to play. Right after this, they go to 3 D tackles, 3 interior guys, which then constricts the ability to control the edges in the deep. But after that,
After winter, must come spring.
you get this.
Everything is everything.
I mean, look at Chop. He just shoots inside, vacates the edges, and then you get this, a missed tackle here, and then now you start breaking it open. Defenses get frustrated. They start missing stuff. Look at this.
Everything is everything.
But this comes over time. Attacking every single spot again and again and again. And then you get defenses that are tired, and then you break them open, hopefully. But you've got to attack a full scope. This came about because you rushed the ball 24 times with Daddelum, 34 times total. And we can get into the individual players, but understand that taxing over time, mentally and physically, again and again in diverse areas, led to this. It wasn't just the defense getting blown off the ball. So here's another one. Look at this. True pass set. We bring 5 rushers, 5 blockers, and it holds up long enough, and that is open. How often can we get this? Can Tua stand up to it? That's a different question, but you brought 5. And then that puts a thin defense. You've got a max 5 receivers in routes, and that stresses a thin defense, thin secondary.
Everything is everything.
You could see how after a negative play by Ollie Gordon, McDaniel kind of abandoned it. After a few, the best runs we had were in the interior. And he decided to go to one spot, same kind of runs. And this was a close game where Panthers were behind, and they kept attacking and attacking and attacking. And it wasn't all 4 and 5 yards. They were blowing this team off the ball. But that commitment to the run game fueled the defense, wore down the opposing defense, and slowed this game down to where they could manage it. And it's those attempts, not so much the yards. The yards, clearly with this team with no quarterback, it was critical. If they didn't have those yards with this kind of quarterback, they probably wouldn't have won. But if you had a top quarterback, even those attempts, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, at this number with so few in opposition, it would have swayed the leverage. It would have swayed one team to the sweet spot in the NFL cycle and turned this game into a meat grinder, a physical game, and it would have given them a strong edge. And this is where McDaniel fails. He gets very nervous. And I understand the Colts game is a game where we were really behind and you couldn't do it. But every game after that was fairly close, and we still didn't really run the ball that much except for the Jets game. And McDaniel he does not have the intestinal fortitude, the experience. He's not blooded like a Gailey who can be patient and understand that what it brings within the play, within the half, within the game, and within the season. And if we get somebody here that has this understanding and develops the talent, we'll do better. And that's the key. And that's why we fail. I've been talking for years about the A and B gap value. And some people would say, oh, Curtis, that's what you want, but we want something different. Have a good season. It's not what I want. It's what's the most conducive for success. And the reality is, running the football inside between the A and B gap and having the attempts is the most conducive venue for this current cycle. It's always been value. When we went to the fun ball system, it was less value, but you could see every team, everybody is working towards this particular goal. So I hope you enjoyed, hope you understand everything is everything in NFL. You can't fixate on McDaniel. You can't fixate just on offensive linemen. You can't just fixate on Tua. It's all pieces, or even this defense that's on the field all day. It all comes together. We don't have enough talent. We don't have great coaches. You could say we have a quarterback with an injury problem and he's not elite. Okay. But from the very top, we were trying to facilitate a fun ball pass happy system with a defense that can get after you with pass rushers when you're ahead. And that isn't what we could do, and that isn't the most conducive to the current NFL cycle. So, hope you enjoyed. Curtis saying, be well, go Fins. Curtis out. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.